Welcome back to the Pro Physique Code. Today we got a special guest, our newest member of the Pro League from Team Pro Physique. It's Dani Patterson. What's up, Dani?
Yes, hello. Still doesn't feel that real. I'm not gonna lie.
You know, the thing that, as a coach, it just goes so quick. The moment you become a pro, it's like you think about it for so long, and then all at once they go, number 439, please come to the middle, and you're like, oh shit, it's happening, right? Like, so
Yeah.
So walk us through what show day was like for you.
So this show day, I will say, felt different. I told my family that too. I woke up feeling super calm, and usually I get really anxious.
Yeah.
So it was kind of nice. And we even had little hiccups throughout the day. Like my tan wasn't sitting how we would have liked it to.
I don't think I've ever even had an issue, looked at your tan and thought, but I remember seeing you on show day going like, why are you white?
Yeah, well, I do the Pro Tan DIY.
Yeah.
And I've done it for my last 5 shows. And the same thing, I'm a creature of habit, so I don't change what products I use, how I exfoliate, my methods, everything is the same every single time. And my body was 2 different colors on show day.
Yeah.
My legs took the color.
Were great.
My arms took the color, but my torso didn't. So
well, the one thing I love about the self-application, if you had to get sprayed again, it could have been panic mode, because it would have been like, well, are they going to fit me in? Are they going to get it right? Doing it yourself, I know a lot of people get nervous about doing it yourself, but once you do it yourself, it's almost like you don't ever want to go back, right?
Never. It's so much easier and it's so much less stress. So
yeah.
Like you just mentioned, I didn't have to deal with anyone else. I could just put on another coat and then call it good, and it dries in 2 minutes on that day. So it's a lot easier. And then you don't have to worry about tan times in general, because they're usually not great. And then I find too, just the longevity of your tan throughout show day is better, because if you do have any mishaps where you smear some or you get a little water on you, it's not a dramatic difference between your top coat and your base coat,
right?
Because you've added layers throughout the week, so it doesn't stick out as much. So
it
just looks better.
To me, that's the key with Pro Tan on show day, is if you're going to the show and you're getting sprayed Friday and you're getting sprayed Saturday before, you cannot do enough layers to make it look as good as if you just do Wednesday, Thursday, you just layer it and sleep in it. It just gets in the skin better, right?
Yeah, because it just soaks it in day after day.
Yeah.
I just feel like it can only soak in so much at a time.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah. So, but and that's a part of, and I hear this a lot from girls that turn pro, is just the calmness. Like, you weren't, what's going to happen? It's more like, let's just do this thing. I'm ready.
Yeah. There was really no nerves. I just felt good. And I think too, coming off of 2 other peak weeks, knowing how my body acts and stuff. And so I can kind of see how it was working throughout the morning and throughout the early afternoon. And I knew it was on track to being peaking at the right time. So I really didn't have any worry there. Backstage was super calm. It was nice because we did have quite a few girls there too. So we had our own little area.
Yeah, well, they were spread out. That's the most competitors we've ever had at a show. It was close to 30, between all the coaches. But there was a lot of you girls that had done a couple shows together already too. So I know you and Bryn are besties now. So you guys were hanging out.
Yeah. Yeah. I just have all my new best friends from the last couple of weekends.
Yeah. So, and then who was anybody there from the Spectrum show that we did? I'm trying to remember. There was Jillian. She was there.
Jillian.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, and Sean was there too. Sean was there as well. So we had, we had definitely, that's something that as a coach now, I've been doing this for so long, over coaching years, you just get families of people that compete with you for a season or 2, and they can change, right? So this year it's you and Bryn hanging out, and then next season you might be doing shows with some other girls, so it's always fun, building that camaraderie where you guys are exploring the city together. Just makes the trips, I think, more fun, because it can be a lonely sport, right?
Yeah, For sure. I mean, because you have to be so selfish with your time, and not a lot of people understand. So it is nice when you do connect with people who do the same thing as you, so they get it.
Yeah.
It's just you're able to relate on a level that you can't with people who don't. But no, and it's nice. And I think it's different in a way where it's a sport and you can be going against someone, but still cheer for them.
Yep.
So it's
well,
not
because
like,
you don't get to decide who wins. I don't get to decide who wins. It's kind of like, I've even had people ask me like, oh, don't you worry about coaching same competitors in the same show? And I'm like, well, no, because I'm going to make them their best and I don't decide anything.
Yeah,
you know, it's
exactly.
it's not up to me. So no, that's never been a concern for me, is putting you guys in a position to be successful and then just let the judges figure it out. And then we move on from there. So the other thing that we did nice this year was the show we did in Sacramento and the show Junior Nationals. We got on stage later in the day, all these shows, right? So we got to learn that you really responded well to a bunch of food on show day.
Yes, a lot of food.
You hit a PR for rice cakes at Junior Nationals.
I go through like an entire sleeve.
Was that the NorCal show, or the was it NorCal where you had like
it was at the NorCal show when you were asking me what I've eaten for the day, and I said like 19 rice cakes for my carbs or something stupid. We didn't go on till like 6 o'clock.
Yeah, it was a strange one for some reason. Well, in a way I like that, because they say you don't even have to be at the show till 3. And I don't know, the bikini division at that show was massive. Remember how many masters bikini were at that show?
Yeah,
it was crazy.
That was,
and then when we got to the open division, I thought the open classes were going to be huge, but they were like 3, and then the rest were masters girls. So
yeah,
the masters,
there's a lot of crossover. Masters was huge that show.
Yeah,
so that took forever.
So by the time you got on stage, it was quite late, but then they just turned around, gave out the awards, did the overall, and we were done. We got to go down to Sacramento and enjoy that a little bit. So the other thing that we figured out with you is the burger and fries the day before the show. So when I saw you in Sacramento, I thought, man, you're pretty flat, like the day before we were training. And I asked you about it, and you didn't seem to fight me on it too much.
That's kind of like the way I approach my prep, though. I don't really fight you on much, because I know that I'm not in my right mind when I look at myself a lot of the times. And so, and I feel like since we've been working together for almost 3 years.
Yeah.
Over 2.5 years.
Yeah.
You know how I react just as well, if not better than I do sometimes.
Yeah. It's 3 full preps that we've done together now. So
yeah.
It's, but the thing is, your body has changed every prep. Like you're a completely different competitor now.
Yeah, for sure. And 2, I was definitely more willing to try something different at that show, because that was our tester. Really. I obviously wanted to win, and I want to do well, but
if you guys aren't familiar, Dani took 4th at North Americans last year. So if you place top 5 at a national show, she also won an overall last year. So she was qualified, I think, for 2 years for the national stage. She didn't have to do a show, but you know, as a coach, like I said, her body was different. I didn't want to just go to junior nationals and not have test a peak week. So we picked a show that we thought would be beneficial. We did it. I thought you looked the best you've ever looked at that show. I was like, wow, we nailed this look. Like people in the crowd were like, look at that girl in the red. And I was like, oh, cool. That's Dani. Like, you know, so I knew you looked crazy. So it did pay off, because we got to do that. We got to go to junior nationals, armed with that knowledge. And, you know, I feel like, I don't know, what was the vibe like for you at junior nationals, where you said you were a little more nervous?
I would say a little bit more nervous, but I definitely felt like it was completely different than North Americans.
Okay.
I felt more as though like I belonged and I deserved to be there.
Sure.
And I think previous years I kind of was like a scared little thing in the corner, just looking at everyone. And so I just felt more confident in it, and I definitely felt good, especially when I did go on stage. I was like, okay, that felt right. Like this could be it, kind of thing. And I mean, we were close, but I felt good. And asked me right after that show, I would have been like, yeah, I've never felt better.
Yep.
But then Universe happened.
Yeah.
And then that was just like,
I mean,
perfect.
it helps. I
don't
mean,
know.
you know, stress response, cortisol, all those things, your digestion can be impacted. So I mean, there's definitely a calming, there's a benefit to being calmer on show day. So it just shows. And I mean, you know, as someone who's seen you pose 3 years ago to now, you just act different on stage. You just act like you're welcome. Like you get to view what I'm about to show you versus what most girls look like on stage, which is like, I can tell they're like thinking about remembering their routine. They're just trying to think. Some people perform, you know, I always point to Daraja because she's the queen, but she's performing her routine versus some girls are just executing it. They're just going through the motions, and you've got that performance vibe to you're at a different pace than everybody else. You take your time. You know, if a bunch of girls are rushing, you're not rushing. You just turn your, you know, and it shows. It's like it's hard to, it's not tangible. I can't say do this. You have to watch a show, and then when you see people walk out, you go, that's different. Is that something that you've mentally focused on, or is that just a confidence thing?
I think it's just a confidence thing. I like really like grew into like who I am now as a competitor. Like I'm trying to explain this in a way where it makes sense, because it doesn't really make sense in my head. Someone asked me after the show, they were like, oh, you're posing and just like your presence when you were out there was so strong. Like, what do you think about when you're up there? And I literally just was like, I like black out. I don't know. Like, I just do it. Like it just happens. And it's like, I have certain cues that I think about for like my back pose, but it's like a split second I'm thinking about it. And then it's just completely in the moment.
Yeah.
And I used to be way more in my head. So I think it's just a confidence thing.
Yeah. So
once I
how much
it.
posing practice do you do?
So I would do, especially like in prep and towards the end of prep, every morning after cardio. So probably like 5 to 6 times a week, at least running through my routine a couple times.
Do you film it or take pictures every time you do it?
I always film for me. That way I can look back at it, because I make little tweaks. I haven't worked with a posing coach in since before like the amateur Olympia. So 2 years.
Yeah. So you just basically look at yourself, make minor adjustments, and then, you know, and honestly, like generally I give feedback and someone sends me pictures and I'm like, don't do that. And I never really, maybe I tweak, you know, your back, you were kind of pinching your shoulder blades at one point, kind of opened you up a little bit, but very minor things. So that's, And then at North Americans, Daraja was there, which was helpful because she tweaked a couple things in my back pose. Basically just the width of my feet and then pointing my toes where I'm pointing them. And it completely changed the look of my back pose. And so once that was figured out, we were like, okay, we're good. I think for us, North Americans last year was probably the biggest question mark, right? Because we had done the amateur Olympia, but that's nowhere near the caliber of North Americans. I mean, amateur Olympia class F, I'm guessing you had 12 to 15. North Americans was probably close to 30 last year. That was a massive show.
That was nuts.
Yeah. So I know one class, Yulia was in class D, and I remember that's the show she turned pro. I think she had 40 girls in her class. It was crazy. The girl that she beat won the overall at nationals the next show. You know what I'm saying? So like that was a deep show. So for you to get first call outs and moved in at North Americans last year, I was like, okay, like I was like, now I can see her turning pro. I see, you know, I see what she needs to improve at. And then that's, you know, honestly, the great thing about coaching you is you've never been like, let's do another one. Let's do another one. You're like, what needs to be better? Let's go do it. You know, you didn't after North Americans immediately just go, well, what's next? Let's do nationals. You were like, no, I want to be better.
Yeah. I think that is something that I'm good at, realizing when it is time to take a break, because I don't want to waste my time.
Yeah.
And I feel like I would just be prolonging the process if I kept competing, because in all reality, I'm not going to win a pro card with that physique. I think we both knew that. We were close, but it wasn't going to happen with that. So I needed to take the time. And if I didn't take that time, I wouldn't have gotten it now. It
Right.
probably would have been another year from now. So,
well, yeah, I mean, you're not going to put on a significant amount in prep. It was already September. We had to be on stage in December. So no, it was definitely the right move, but it's refreshing, believe me, because there's a lot of competitors that are just like, oh, I got first call outs. I got to keep going. I got to keep going.
Yeah.
Sometimes first call outs can be the worst thing to happen to someone, you know, because that they might've just had a good day, and the next show, I've seen it before. Girls get, you know, third, and then the next show they get seventh, the next show they get 12th, and they just don't realize that their body is telling them to take a break. Whereas you, I mean, what's the most shows you've done in a season? 2? This is probably it this year. 3.
3.
Yeah, this is it. So
it's usually 2. We did a regional to qualify, and then a national.
So well, this year's a little different because we packed them in close together. You did 3 shows in basically in a month, right?
Yeah, 3 shows in 4 weeks.
Yeah.
And we were California, Tennessee, New Jersey.
Yeah. So you got them in, and then, well, we won't reveal the plans for the pro debut, but it won't be 2023. That's not the plan. So we're going to be coming back later this season. So
yeah, no more year-long off seasons for now.
Well, and that's the other thing about putting on the muscle and taking the time off, is that once you have it, it's not going anywhere, right? So I think we've got the opportunity now to, like, maybe get a little bit better, but see where you stand on the pro stage. Put you in a position to perhaps get a first call out at your pro debut. And, you know, it's crazy to think about, like, you know, just a couple of weeks ago, we were worried about getting a pro card. Now you're going to have to, you know, try to qualify for the Olympia.
I know. That's wild to me. It's still so crazy. Like, I posted on my Instagram today, because IFBB
Did it finally work?
Pro League. No, only my stories work still. I've reported it a couple times, so maybe eventually I'll be able to post. But IFBB Pro League followed me on Instagram, and I was like, oh, that's different.
Yeah.
Like, that's something new.
Yep.
Hold on 1 second. I might have to push pause.
Well, so I think my thoughts about Universe when it comes to Dani was, I probably had the least contact with you of any competitor all day. You were just like, you were on cruise control. You know, we had done it a couple times. We had the burger and fries the night before. We knew you could eat food all day. We probably talked once or twice about food plan for the day, and then you just went and executed it. And you know, it was nice because I feel like Class F went out about 2 o'clock, 2:30.
Yeah, that sounds about right, because we didn't have very long till we had to turn around and come back.
Yeah, so we had a little bit of a break. But I mean, I've been at Universe, the last time it was there was 2019. Bikini Class A didn't walk on stage until like 3 o'clock. H didn't walk off stage till 6 o'clock.
That's insane.
Which its finals was supposed to start at 5, and it didn't start till 7. That year was nuts. Like, we literally didn't get out till after midnight. And Sandy was still there giving feedback. Crazy.
There's so many masters competitors.
Yeah. And this year, though, they did a nice thing. They only had wellness and bikini. So
that was nice.
The wellness, there was 100 total individual competitors. Masters, there was 400, or bikini, there was 400. So and a lot of those masters competitors cross over and they do the open division. In fact, a couple of them, I think, got pro cards as an open competitor, which is crazy.
I know there is one girl who got 3 pro cards.
Yeah, she won I think it was the 40 and over overall, the 35 and over overall. Then she got second in her open class.
Yeah.
Yep. And then she knocked Bryn out. Bryn was right up. That was Class A. Bryn was right next to her.
Yeah, our girl Bryn. Oh, I know the pain. But then there was one girl too who was G. She won 2 pro cards, and it was only her second show. So I was
bless them.
Damn.
God bless them.
Yeah. Yeah,
you know,
she got a master's pro card and an open.
Those quick pro cards, man, you know, like that's probably because she's got a couple of years of training under her belt, you know, like the muscle was there.
Yeah, she was a coach as well prior. Yeah. So she coached competitors. She just never competed at like herself at that time. So there was that aspect to it. So she had a little bit of something. It wasn't just completely green, but
understood.
Yeah, there was a lot of girls. But yeah, like you said, I felt pretty low maintenance that day. I was very stage mommy, actually, which kind of helped me because it just distracted me, and it was nice to be able to help some of the other girls who
there was
a little bit more panicked.
When we have a group that big, there's always going to be some that are a little higher maintenance, some that are, you know, when you get in a group that tend to your personality traits tend to take over, you know, based on what's going on around you. So but it helps me because, you know, as a coach, I'm trying to keep stress low. I always describe it as like brides at their wedding. Like, I'm going to help you fix what I can help you fix. But if shit's a mess, I'm not going to tell you till the show's over. Right. Like, you know, I've had girls come down with their makeup just the worst, and it's an hour till show. And I'm just like, no, you look fine. You look fine. And then after the show, I'm like, who the hell did your makeup?
Never go there again.
Like, so, but it's not going to do me any good to tell them that an hour before they walk on stage, because there's no way to redo it. And they're just going to be thinking about their makeup.
Exactly.
And that confidence that you have, you know, going back to that, a lot of that just comes down to knowing you're fucking on, like looking in the mirror, seeing your pictures and going, damn, dude. And you just walk out there. You know, if you're insecure, it comes across in your posing. I see it at the pro shows, especially because pros know when they're on and when they're not. And when they're on, they're making eye contact with the judges. They're holding their poses. When they're not, they're quicker. They're, you know, less eye contact. It's, you know,
hiding away.
It's subtle. When you watch a show every weekend, you see these subtle little differences between competitors. And my favorite phrase is slow is pro. I say that all the time because you'll watch every class come out at a show like this with 30 girls, and you'll see people that are slower, and they just look like they're at a different show. It's like, you know, oh, that girl doesn't belong in the NPC anymore. It's time for her to go. Right. And that was you this week. It was perfect. And I got really excited when they moved you into the middle. The first move they did was you next to the eventual overall winner, side by side. Right. So that was sweet. And I thought she was a little better. I was comparing, and I'm like, oh, she got a little better taper. You know, I thought she had a little bit fuller shoulders. I thought you had a little bit better front pose. I thought your front pose was better, but it was very close. And I was curious which way it was going to go. What was Sandy's feedback? Because we got feedback from Sandy.
She told me again that they are going back and forth. Sandy's favorite thing to tell me. Because that was feedback for junior nationals as well, as they were going back and forth between 1 and 2. But at the end of the day, she just had me at width on my upper body and density. So just add a little bit to my shoulders and upper back just to balance it out a little bit more.
Yeah, and I still owe you a training program. Got to put some lats in there for you.
Yes.
But I think, I think your front pose is rather striking, which is kind of,
thank you.
It's weird if we look back to that first picture you ever sent me. Let's dig into that a little bit, because I want to get into your history of competing prior to me. So what made you compete? What did you see, or who did you like? You know, usually there's a person or a place that you remember going, ooh, what is that? I want to do that.
Yeah, kind of unique. So I worked as a personal trainer for a while, maybe like 2 years, just at a local commercial gym. Well, it's not local and commercial gym in Minnesota. And then the guy I was dating at the time, he wanted to get into it. So he decided he was going to do one. And we made some friends at that gym who were in the industry in Minnesota. It's very small, especially at that time. So he went forth and like did a prep, and I went to the show, and throughout his entire prep, I was pretty like strong on the fact that like, nah, this is not something I would ever want to do. It's just not me. Like, it's very like showy and girly. And at the end of the day, like, I'm not in my normal life.
Sure.
Since like my grandma cardigan and glasses right now. But I went to the show, and I was just watching the girls go up there, and I was like, okay, this is pretty cool. Like, it's not just pretty girls standing up there. It's like actual hard work.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, like it could be fun just to like test myself, see what I can do. I've been an athlete my entire life. And when soccer ended, I kind of let myself go. And then I got back in the gym, lost weight, became a trainer, so got back into it. So I think I was also looking for something else to like motivate me. Like I needed a goal
I
again.
think a lot of former athletes have that. I mean, I was a baseball player, and that's the gym became my like daily outlet. So how long did you play soccer for?
All throughout college. So I started when I was really young, probably like 5 or whatnot.
Yeah.
And then I went to a boarding school for high school to play for like college prep. And then I played D1 at South Dakota State for all 4 years.
What position?
And so I was actually moved to center back in college. It was kind of a weird situation where there was an injury. And so I shifted positions and it just worked out because then I got playing time like right away as a freshman. So
what was your attribute? Were you fast?
I had some distance on my legs. So I could really play like the long balls, the angles, and then I was just a really aggressive player.
Nice. You pulling
Weird,
hair,
right?
elbowing bitches.
Yeah, just pulling hair, all of it. No,
I mean, I've seen some pretty rough YouTube girls soccer videos. You know, they're like they're rough.
Yeah, girl soccer is definitely rougher than men's soccer, I would say. It's something else. But so then I found a random coach on Instagram, some lady from Australia. I don't know.
Oh, really? An Australian?
It was super. Yeah, she was an IFBB Pro, and I didn't know anything about it. I was like Googling what the NPC is and like how to even.
Oh, sure.
Like I had no idea. And so I started working with her. I was like, it's cheap. I'm not going to really invest into this because I don't know if it's something I want to keep doing. And it was a meal plan approach. And we went straight into a prep. So no building, no like trying to figure out my macros beforehand, which didn't end up being ideal. So dieted all the way down, got really, really tiny. And then I did my first show. I believe that was 2019.
I think I found the pictures. Didn't you win like the novice class?
Yeah, I won my open class as well.
Yeah, I saw that. Okay.
Yeah, and so I did well in it. And at the time, I thought I looked great. And then afterwards, I did not do a reverse. I did not do anything right. So basically, a terrible rebound.
And this is, you know, anyone that knows me knows my approach to this contest prep lifestyle is I try to make the transition out of prep as smooth as possible, which means flexible dieting, because obviously you can choose the foods which fit, and you still end up eating the same crap every day. We remove the stigma, right? Like, you know, it's okay to eat something. But it's also about bringing food up going into the show and just changes that dynamic. So, because my first experience was just like yours. You know, I had flexible dieting, but when my show ended, no one explained to me what was about to happen. Like, I didn't understand the psychology of it. And I was all of a sudden, like, I went from that rigid, like, okay, I have a show in 3 weeks. I'm going to go home and prep my food and eat. I was literally driving home from work the Monday I went back to work, driving home from work. And I'm like, oh, I don't have any meals prepped. Oh, I'll just stop here at like a Mexican place and get like 2 burritos because I was really hungry and I'm super anabolic, right? So like, no one explained any of that stuff to me. I just ate till I was full all the time, and it's bad news. So explain, you know, talk us through the show day. Were you treat hoarding? Were you, you know, like Instagram, you know, you know, that's the first thing that I get worried about is when I see a girl or a competitor, a male, anybody that's posting pictures of the food they have saved at their house or in their room. I'm like, uh-oh. So let's go through that, because I want people to hear the difference.
Yeah, I definitely like had my stash of what I wanted post show. Like I had it packed in my, like it was in my show day bag. I had it with me. I had cookies in my freezer. I was so food focused. I would almost say I was more focused on the food I was going to eat post show than the show.
I hear that all the time. I hear girls that you know, they'll be with my competitors, and they'll be like, you know, they'll be rooming, and the girl will be like, hey, do you want to go to the grocery store and just walk around and see what we're going to eat? And obviously, like, you're going to be like, what do you mean? I can eat whatever I want. You know, like, it's
Yeah.
just, so I hear that all the time. Yeah.
Yeah. So then there was like that aspect. And I will say, I think the fact that I was on a meal plan for the 12 weeks and that meal plan was the same thing. And looking back on it, it was not enough food. It wasn't the healthiest.
Sure.
So I think that mentally, physically, I was just not in a great place. So then when it came time where I had the opportunity and I was free and I could do what I wanted, it was balls to the wall.
Yeah.
And I had
so let's talk
there
about
was no
some
stopping
numbers.
me.
Let's talk about numbers. Your first prep, do you remember roughly your starting weight for that prep?
Oof. Probably like 130, I would say.
All right. And then what was your stage weight?
Like 114.
Okay, so 16 pounds lost. You're 5'5.5", right? That's right. So 114. Yeah, and I looked at your pictures at that show, and I thought you looked pretty good. I mean, you obviously your shape was there already. You just didn't have any, upper body muscle yet. You still had the lower body because of your soccer days.
Yep.
So yeah, I mean, I think if I'm at that show and I'm looking, I'm like, ooh, there's potential. Like you see that from the stage, no matter what muscle someone has. So
yeah,
114 shows
teach her
over.
how to pose.
Yeah, a little bit, but I mean, at the end of the day, when I go to a show and I'm seeing true novice and novice classes, I kind of like it when the person's like, oh, I don't know anything about the sport. I don't know, Savannah, my client, that won she won the Clash overall this year. You met her at Junior Nationals.
Yeah.
She was literally backstage at the Clash, which had like, J.M. Mannion was there, CJ from CJ's Elite Suits, like all these people in the industry that everyone knows who they are. And she was like, why is this guy taking a picture of me? And I was like, that's J.M. Mannion, that's a good thing. And like, and then CJ was like, oh, can I help you fix your suit? And she's like, why is this lady helping me fix my suit? And I was like, she's the best suit maker. Like she's backstage helping you. And she's like, oh, so like, I kind of like that naivete, like, because it's fun, because at a certain point, it starts to become a business almost, like you're showing up to do a job, where at the beginning, like you walk out to your first show, the lights hit you, you're like, what is all this? It's a weird environment. So
yeah, it's crazy. It's a crazy experience for sure, because it's nothing you could ever expect. But
no, and it's and not for nothing, like maybe you walk out on the show the first day and you go, nah, not for me. But obviously you were hooked from the first one, right?
Yeah. And then, well, especially after I got off I started to like figure out my mental post that first show, because I think once I sorted that out and I wasn't associating my binging or my unhealthy relationship with food, that wasn't because of competing, that wasn't because of the sport, it was because of the route I took during that first prep.
Well, let's talk about that rebound. What was how long did it last? What was the worst that it got?
Shoot, I think I probably took like 5 months before I ended up hiring you. That sounds about right in my head. But I think when we started, I was over 140.
Okay.
Right? I think so.
10 pounds above your previous stage weight, or your previous like normal weight.
Yep. And not good pounds.
And you're happy at 130. Like if you're walking around at 130, you're going to the beach, you're cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's kind of like where my body would sit naturally. Like it's happy.
Oh, that's not good. My dog just made it up the stairs.
Uh-oh.
That means the child is soon to follow.
Now which one?
Oh, it's always Jace. He's my baby. He loves his daddy.
Little surfer boy.
I'm hoping it's my wife, because she will get the hint and go back. But all right, so you got up to 140. And then, were you at this point like talking to other competitors, doing research? What led you down the path of like not hating the sport?
Yeah, I definitely did a lot of like creeping online. And so I learned a little bit more about it, and I was just looking at more competitors in the shape that they had, and I was like, okay, like I really like that. And then some of the girls that I met at that first show that I did, I followed them online, and so on Instagram, so I saw them continuing with competing, and I was like, okay, like this actually does look like fun. It's a community, it's more of like a team environment. And I was like, I think I can I think I can do this again and like give it another shot. I just want to do it healthier. And I mean, a main motivator too was like appearances. Like I wasn't happy with the way I looked and I wasn't happy with the way I felt. So I was like, this is going to be a way that's going to motivate me to get to a place where I can be happy with how I look and feel good and bring that confidence back.
Yeah. And honestly, sometimes that concerns me, because what I'll see happen is a competitor will take an approach like you took the first time, get to a physique that they're very happy with, have the rebound, and then not know that there's other ways to do it. And they just think, oh, I've just got to go back into prep the way I did before.
Yeah.
Which may work for a short period of time, but you know, the more times you do that, the less it works. I call it the YOLO prep, because you're only lean once, versus like, you know, the approach that, you know, I don't want to sound high and mighty, but you know, I really put it this way. I would consider myself a failure, Dani, if I said, hey, congratulations, you got a pro card, and then you had to quit competing because like your hair is falling out and you have an eating disorder and you put on 30 pounds. Like, and I see a lot of coaches do it that way, and they're happy to tell you how many pro cards they've won, but they're not happy to tell you how many of those clients are still with them. So I kind of had to figure out a better way, because that happened to me early on in my coaching. You know, like it's an extreme level of conditioning that we get to. I don't care how you get there. It's going to be difficult. But I think we've kind of found some hacks to getting there, maintaining your sanity, not being food focused, you know, and so these are things that, you know, I've learned over the last couple of years. And so we did our first prep for the Amateur Olympia, right? That was our first prep, right?
Yes.
Did we do a show before that? I'm trying to remember.
Yeah, we did. We did.
I could look up your peak week. I thought Minnesota was after North America.
I've done a couple Minnesota shows. So I did one. I think we did one Minnesota show.
You know what? I've got your peak week folder right here. Let me pull up.
Yeah. I believe we won my class.
A different peak week for every show. I know that sounds weird to some coaches.
I know. Are you sure? You want to just change the date? I'm just kidding.
Actually, you know, it'd be really funny. Let's pull it up here.
Yeah, I'm curious.
Wait, did you reach out to me in 2019? I think you did.
Yeah.
Oh, there it is, 2019. Yeah. Peaking for Ann to Tone and Upper Midwest.
Oof. Okay. Yeah. So we lied earlier. Then we've done 3 in one season before, and it was before the Amateur Olympia. It's because we did the Upper Midwest show.
Yep.
We won our class, and then we did a Sioux Falls show in attempts to win an overall, because I hadn't won an overall at that time.
Yeah. How did you not win that show? I wonder how you didn't win that show.
Well,
I wasn't there, so
I got second place out of 2 girls.
Oh, I remember this.
Yep. And
that was a little kick in the teeth, wasn't it?
Yeah, that one was a hard one to swallow, but we went to the Amateur Olympia after that and placed, and that competitor did not. So
I love that you have this. I love that you have this little bit of competitiveness that you're like, yeah, but we kind of beat, you know. I love that.
Yeah, it's like, well, you know, an overall would have been great, but at the end of the day, the goal was to do well at the national level. So that's okay.
Well, and I mean, that's another part of, you know, it's not the same judges at every show. It's not the same criteria. The Midwest judges, sometimes they go with a softer look, and then, you know, you might get the East Coast judges that go with a little harder look, you know, like that's a part of the sport, is learning all that stuff. And sometimes the fun thing is going, oh, I'm just going to do a show, and you don't know the judges, you don't know the promoter, you don't know who else is showing up, you don't know who's been stalking other competitors, you're just having fun. Yeah. And then the farther you go in the sport, sometimes, you know, now we know everything. We know not everything, but we're still learning, but we know a lot. And a lot of that is, you know, setting us up for success, is knowing the details that we didn't know in the past. So yeah, it's funny because I looked at your peak week plan for your Amateur Olympia. We had you on 250 carbs the day before the show, so we were already filling you out. And you did well there. I think you were just thin then, like you were just very linear, you know, like up and down. That's what I remember thinking. I remember thinking, wow, she got great shape, but we just need more of you. because the girls were pretty jacked in that class.
Yeah, that's like one of the main things I remember is just being backstage and looking around, just feeling like a peanut compared to a lot of the girls. And I will say too, there was quite a few masters girls and masters that were crossing over too. So I was also comparing myself against them, who typically do have more muscle, especially in their upper bodies, which is where I lack the most. So that was my main thing. And I was like, yeah, we need to put some meat on these bones.
I mean, I don't remember your stage weight at that show, but I know this year we've been in the low 120s around stage weight, so you've put on
like 116, 117.
Okay. So I mean, 3 or 4 pounds of stage muscle is a lot, especially on a female frame like yours. Like we're talking about, like, I know your legs now have a lot more density to them. Your glutes, your upper glutes have a lot more density. Your shoulders, I don't know. Maybe it's from soccer, but you had like no shoulders for the first couple of years, and now you're starting to get some like volume to them. So it's really fun to see the physique change, because it's been enough time between shows where you've just gotten better with each one.
Yeah, like this side by sides, sometimes I just scroll through them because it's so wild to me still. Of just show by show, because from every single season, I feel like it's a completely different person. Like, holy smokes. Like after we got off stage at North Cal and I was looking at those stage photos, that's kind of when I was like, oof, okay. Like we did the damn thing. This is it. So I was like, yeah, it's crazy though. 2.5 years, but lots of changes.
Well, and that's also encouraging for what's ahead, because now we're on the cusp of the pro league, which the technically the criteria is supposed to be the same, right? So we're now, and I mean, technically you did a pro show already, right? So you turned pro with 16 open bikini competitors and you beat all of them but one. So, like the girl that won the overall, Brittany, that was the first pro show, because you guys walked out on stage as pros. They were just determining who was going to be the overall winner, right? So you beat all those other pros, and you guys were 1, 2. So that's one way to look at it. Like, we're ready to go to the pro stage. It's an opportunity now for us to get a little bit better, come back later in the year. And with doing 3 shows this season, I don't know how many diet breaks we had prior to the first show. Do you remember that? How many diet breaks have we had?
We had
1 or 2, maybe.
No, like breaks. I don't think. We did a burger one time to assist with my digestion, because we weren't working very well for a minute. And then I believe we had like a long weekend of a diet break. So yeah, maybe like 1.5, 1 plus a burger.
So the benefit of, doing 3 shows is that we brought food up, cardio down, the burger, fries, plus going out to eat after the show, and then getting back on track. And you actually hit an all-time prep low for this prep 2 days out from Universe. Like you hit that 118 point something. I know we were depleting a little bit, but I was like, cool. Now I feel really good about just throwing food at you, because you want to be tight when you're doing that. And then we went out after Universe to that ridiculous pizza place. I don't know if people watched your stories, but like you guys ordered a pizza with like chicken cutlets inside the pizza. Like, I don't even know what it had on it.
It was stuffed with buffalo mac and cheese. And then it had chicken tenders and French fries on top.
And then you got a dessert stuff with like Nutella and cookie dough.
Yeah, so the dessert pizza was stuffed with peanut butter and cookie dough, and then it was topped with s'mores. So it was Nutella graham crackers, marshmallows, and then we did Oreos. And I've never had a cannoli, so we had some cannolis tossed on top.
Yeah,
and it was great.
That sounds like a lot, but the odd thing is, like, what'd you have? A couple pieces, a couple bites of things? Like, it's not like
I didn't even have a full piece of each, because like we were talking about earlier, I ate all day, so I wasn't even hungry. When we went out.
So
just tasters.
Now we're in a position where you're a couple pounds over stage weight, you're eating a ton of food, we pulled cardio down to minimal, and so now we can, have you been food focused this week? How's your energy been?
No, I feel great. Today I'm down another pound too, so I'm getting closer to where we thought I would be at.
Yeah.
So things are regulating. My energy is great. I'm eating bagels. It's amazing.
Bagels.
Yeah, I put bagels in my meal plan now since I have extra carbs.
Yeah.
So I got rid of one of my rice cake meals. But no, and I'm really liking how I look at this weight too, which is kind of wild. Like my core is still really tight. Like I am still pretty shredded, honestly. And we're up probably like 4 pounds from stage weight. Perfect. And I still feel like I could step on stage.
Yeah, absolutely. No, that's a win. I mean, like I said, it just makes me feel better about this process that we're not putting people in a position that's really bad post-show. Because I think that's almost accepted at this point. Like girls are just like, oh, it's okay if you put on 20 pounds. I'm like, well, is it okay if you're not happy about it? Like, I don't have a problem with that. If you're telling yourself it's okay to make yourself feel better, but you don't want to go to the gym because you don't like the way you look, or you join a new gym, right? No one sees you anymore. Because I hear that sometimes. Like I had to join a new gym. So
yeah, no, and I think my mindset's completely different too after this one. Like I didn't buy myself any treats. I never did cookies. I didn't come home to anything in my freezer. Bryn sent me home with a couple like bites of stuff, but I spent the weekend enjoying, like I went out for dinner and brunch, but it was still like when I was full, I'm done. It was never like overindulging. It was nothing crazy. Getting up on Tuesday morning, checking in, I wasn't nervous. I wasn't like, oh shoot, I messed up. Like I don't want to even check in. So I've had that before too, where it's like, oh, I ate all this, my weight's going to be up. Like I'm going to freak out about it. It wasn't nothing like that. Perfect. And I was excited to get back to my routine. I'm very, very into my routine.
I mean, you dress like a grandma, so I'm assuming you have a grandma routine.
I do. I do. I like my foods. I eat the same foods every day. I go to bed nice and early. I'm up early. But so no, and I've felt good. Energy's been good. Like no cravings, no like desire to binge, which is great. And then it's nice because I still feel like where we are right now with what we're doing, like I want to go on a date and go out to dinner one night a week. Like I don't feel like I shouldn't, and I don't feel like I would overdo it if I did.
Good.
Like it just, I'm in a good place. Yeah.
You hear that, guys? Different. Dani's looking for a date for an early bird special.
Yeah. I either need like a 5 a.m. breakfast date or like a 5 p.m. dinner date so I can be in bed by 8.
That's awesome. All right. Well, I think we'll leave the announcement for the pro debut for another time.
Yeah, I've had a lot of people ask me. I did like a question box on my Instagram and we've had some interesting questions, but that's been a main one. People are very, very curious.
Well, you'll learn this. Pros, sometimes they're curious for their own reasons. They want to know where you're going to be for them. So like it's, sometimes it's, I mean, even I want to know, like, I'm friends with some pretty well-known bikini competitors. I'll be like, hey, Janet, what show you doing? So maybe we don't go there, so it does get to become a little bit of a strategy. It's not like the NPC where, they don't put out lists for NPC shows, who's going to be getting on stage. So we'll talk about that. I've had the opportunity to learn a lot about strategy. I've done things the wrong way and I think I've gotten better at it. So, these are things, and I think you and I have a really good strategy. We talked about it and you immediately got excited. So we'll make a pro debut this season, to be determined when we announce it, but
I'm very excited. Yeah.
Awesome. All right. Well, I'll let you get back to your murder she wrote.
I'll get back to my knitting in the corner with my blanket.
Yeah, go make the neighbors some cookies and go to bed.
Will do. It sounds like a great evening.
All right. Well, thanks, Dani. Congratulations. Super proud of you, and we'll talk soon.
Of course. Thank you.